to be hitting record so that we have the recording of this amazing, awesome time with Miss Colleen Biggs, my great friend. Again, I want to thank all of you guys for always being here and listening and following along, because we try to be very purposeful and productive and proactive in our persistent pursuit to create the life of recovery lifestyle that is going to serve us going forward. And I was super happy when Colleen, agreed to be a guest, because for me, Colleen has served a great space in a recovery journey that has to do with mindset in business, and because we all have to recover from certain things, right? And so if we're in this recovery lifestyle, or we've had to move through, say, an addiction to a chemical substance, or being held hostage by our relationship with food, or people pleasing, codependency, and then we're trying to navigate these different categories of life, we notice that change or those changes, those refinements, that new communication that we're trying to incorporate in our personal lives needs to happen in other areas. And so, learning how to get past that, that space of feeling like, oh, people are just looking at me as somebody that has successfully achieved recovery in their life, and not necessarily as a professional who has spent countless hours of study creating the program that is providing such great success rates for the people that I've served over the last 7 years, right? So we all have things to recover from in different times and spaces. So anyway, this is my friend Colleen. I'm going to let her introduce herself before we dive into our amazing topic that we have for you today.
I feel like I'm still in recovery from corporate America, actually, because it's a different world. And when you are an entrepreneur, you have to recover from a lot of addictions that I would say that I had in corporate America. And that was just bound from the culture, just constantly, forcing you into this kind of square peg. So with that segue, I came from corporate America of 30 years. I have been business coaching for the last 22 years. So many of those years were in corporate America, launched over 340 businesses. My journey in life is to serve female entrepreneurs, to empower them to believe anything is possible, to empower them to really have the confidence in their self, their faith and belief in themselves, for them to accomplish the success that they're looking for. And many female entrepreneurs today love to serve. The problem is they're serving without charging for the value of what they're serving, not necessarily their worth, but their value of what they're contributing and giving to the other person. So we have to remember that it is important for us to charge for those services, because the person that's paying is elevated through that exchange, as well as you as the person that is giving the value. And with those two exchanges becomes change, right? And the teachings that happen through that. So it's very important that if we want to make the greater impact we're looking to make, you can do more of that with more money. And money isn't talked about a lot for female entrepreneurs. For some reason, they have some old beliefs back in their subconscious and files that tell them that money is evil, or they don't deserve it, or they shouldn't charge that much. So I work with women in changing that belief, in moving them through the process to create a better future for themselves, and an independent future for themselves, and giving themselves permission to live that life. I also create community, and community is very dear to my heart. I've been running communities for 3.5 years, and growing those communities to over tens and thousands of women that participate in the different events. And my community is a little different. I like to spotlight women so that they can expand their influence and attract the right customers, which is why I wrote a book on it. I mean, I literally wrote a book that says, step into the spotlight to expand your influence to attract the right clients, because too many times we're pushing, we're pulling, or we're fishing. and we're not attracting the right people to us. So the more we show up everywhere, the more we attract those clients. So I created a community where women can show up everywhere, every day, all the time. And so we promote our members Monday through Friday on different platforms for them to be able to share their message in the spotlight, and do that in a very safe and nurturing environment without judgment. And so for some of them, it's the very first time and they're gaining credibility. For others, they've mastered their message and they're there to share their message. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell, besides being married, having 7 kids, and we just had our 12th grandson on Friday.
We beat
New little baby.
And I'm getting ready to leave and go see 4 of my 5 here this afternoon. But what a blessing. And I think it just sends a message to a lot of people that, or a lot of women, that we can have everything, but we have to balance it out, which is why I was so excited that the day you signed up to come be a guest happened to be this very specific topic, because everything that you're talking about how you support the women in your community, right? And as a member of your community, I can attest to that. But, you have to have a willingness to actually describe and to be able to describe and understand your emotions. Mm-hmm. Right. And we have to know where those emotions come from. And so are they coming from a reaction to our environment, or is it an inner reaction that is based on our own thoughts? So our interpretation of whatever is going on. So, is it, and then we have to look at, is what's going on in my head, is it helpful or is it hurtful? Because if we're not interpreting the events that are going on around us effectively, and it's being interpreted based on past experience, past trauma, or the words of another person, right? Again, for all of you that listen to me regularly, I'm going to talk about that external locus of control. Like if I'm adopting the words of somebody else's perception or interpretation of me, and it's not how I want it to look, feel, and be, like I got to look at, why am I taking their word over my own word? And why am I allowing that to come in? But, we really have to be willing to look at our emotions. We can't keep walking through life and saying, hey, how are you? I'm fine. Fine is the most ambiguous answer you could ever give to the answer to that question. And I guess you guys have probably heard this already. It's only Wednesday, but I've said it like probably 50 times this week. Like, if you're describing yourself as fine, you better back that with which definition. Are you as fine as a really bleached piece of hair, like one strand? Or are you as fine as a precious gem that's been dug out of the center of the earth, that is rock solid, right? And rare and precious and valuable. Like, what's that mean? And if you're, and I know, Colleen, you probably have a lot to say about this, right? But if we have our 9 to 5, which a lot of us, it doesn't look like that anymore. But if you're getting up, you're going to work, and you're accumulating irritations and agitations and frustrations and anxieties and all of this stuff throughout the course of your business day, and that could start in your drive to work, and somebody cuts you off. If you're accumulating that, and that's what you're bringing to the dinner table at night, like you better start getting better at describing your emotions. You need to sit down with your family and say, wow, guys, I have a really stressful day. This has nothing to do with you. So if I sound rude, or mad or angry, I am so sorry. It has nothing to do with you. We as adults need to be able to present that way with our family. We have to be assertive. And I believe assertiveness to be living in a fashion that is open, honest, genuine, transparent, and authentic. Assertive isn't just blunt and to the point. It has to be all of those things. So anyway, I think if we walk through life and we're ambiguous with how we think and feel and what our emotions are, and we're broad brushing it, right? I feel depressed. Well, why? Well, because my business is failing. So, but is your family great? Is your social life great? Keep it where it goes. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. I find that women suffer a lot with fear. And that fear stemmed from somewhere, generally, like you talked about, from an outer experience that happened to them at some point along the way. So let's just talk about fear of rejection. Fear of rejection could be from dating at a young age, could be from fear of rejection from a parent when you were a child, or an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent. It could be rejection of something from a childhood, but then that carries with you. So let's say females here that are in business development in corporate America, or applying for a job in corporate America, or want to start their own business. What will hold them back subconsciously, that they're not realizing the feeling, is the fear of rejection. So they won't apply for that position. They don't know why, they just don't want to. They won't try to start their own business. And if they do get over that hump, they still have that fear of rejection in the back of their mind. So every time they're sharing what they do to bring in a client, they're fearful of being rejected, because that rejection to them tells them it's personal about them. And it's a personal attack, when really it isn't. If someone decides not to buy a product or service from you, it has nothing to do personally with you. It has to do with their emotional need, if they need that product or service or not, right? So we just have to remember that those emotions start from the outside world and something that happened, and then we bring it internally and carry it with us. Women carry around, like you mentioned earlier, so much baggage and emotion that we need. It is important for our thriving, not survival, but for us to thrive in life, to be fully, joyfully happy. We must let go of those emotions.
Very, very poignant statement, right? We have to let go, but we can't let go of it until we can identify it. So I want to piggyback on that, because you did a great job of describing the issue. So how does somebody get to that space, right? So what I walk people through it to get them to even realize that it's just fear of failure. And then, is we have to look at, well, why are you having hesitation? I don't know. Well, okay, why do you feel like you don't know, right? We have to go through this whole motivational interviewing type, which to give is the technical term of it, to get to the bottom of why we have fear of failure. But we have to, or fear of rejection, or failure to launch. We have to know what is that underlying belief. So we have to, because most people don't even know that they're experiencing the fear of failure, failure to launch, or fear of rejection. We have to get there. We have to go the backward steps and investigate what's gone on in your life, so that we can identify it as that. Because then once we do, and once we can say, okay, now I have the procedures to identify what my emotion is. Now I identified the emotion. Now Colleen's telling me, okay, cool. This is what we do with that. And this is how we overcome it. This is how we circumvent that. But you have to be willing to do the steps to learn how to identify what it is. Because if somebody says to me, I'm depressed, right? I'm going to ask them, questions like, are you depressed, or are you in a depressive state? Or are you just down about a very specific situation, conversation, whatever? Like, let's dissect that, because saying I'm depressed, wow, now we're talking about a laundry list of diagnostical statistical manual, the DSM. We got to pull that out and see how much criteria you hit, right? Because that's a diagnosis. Whereas a depressive state, or experiencing sadness, or being down, or disappointed, or stuck, just plain old stuck, is completely different. So the words we use in the description of our emotion, if it's inaccurate, and we're telling ourselves day after day that we're depressed when we're not, what's going to happen?
Well, you become depressed because your mind controls everything in your world and your physical body.
Right. Because now weeks goes by, and now clinically I can be considered depressed, because for 2 weeks I haven't got off the couch or out of my pajamas. Now I'm clinically depressed. But if on day 1 or 2, I have the skill sets and the tools to ask myself the right questions, dissect it, to actually look at the different categories, like where is this related to? And I tell this story all the time. I had a client who was broad brushing, which I talk about, broad brushing, always felt like the black sheep of the family, never felt like she fit in, never felt heard, seen, valued, or validated. And then would get, it would end up in her social life and in her professional life. Like, it didn't start out that way, but it always crept in there. And so when we went through this walking back process I do, that dissecting process that we do, we were able to break it down to, it wasn't a broad brush thing. It wasn't everywhere. It was literally only in her relationship with one person in her family. And that allowed for everything to heal around it. And then she only had to focus on that one thing. She no longer, it was like, whoa, the veil went away, and all of the years of struggle, internal struggle, finally had definition, finally had reason, finally had purpose.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm sure you see that with people in business. You probably go around in circles with them for weeks trying to figure out and get to the bottom of what is it, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, we've incorporated this. Now what? How come that's not fixing it? Why isn't that making it, you're achieving this, you're accomplishing that. Why isn't it better?
Yeah. I had a client, a previous client of mine that came to me, and she just didn't have the self-confidence anymore. She had done really well in her business and was very successful. And she had talked herself out of that success, believed that she didn't have what it took to attract the right clients. And so because that's her belief, she didn't do what she needed to do. She didn't believe in herself. Every time she spoke or got out into the public, it was very non-believable, because she was on the outer showing the world how she felt on the inner. And so it didn't attract the right people. And so she's right. Her business started tanking. It only took 45 days, maybe, working with me, I would say at the most, of me reminding her and being so impressed, because I didn't know anything about her when I met her, and reminding her, once I learned everything about her and what her skill sets were, I was blown away at how much she knew, what her gifts were, how much she could help other people. And when she heard that coming from me, she started to believe in herself. So there's a time where, and I know you do this for people, Tricia, as well, where they kind of lean on you for that direction, and you're by answering or asking them questions and digging deeper and digging deeper and digging deeper, you really get down to the root of what it is, and then you build it back up on the back end, right? So working on the build up on the back end, it really, once we got down to her belief in herself and what she was capable of doing and remembering that, then she was able to soar. I mean, she was making tens and thousands of dollars of what she was hoping, but it was about me pulling back the layers to uncover the actual issue, and then her realizing that, and then being able to take what now she felt on the inside was like, you're right, I forgot about all that. And then moving that to the outside of what she shows the world changed everything, because then she really did believe it. And, I'm all about the law of attraction, and you know that. And so you either attract everything you're thinking at a lower level or at a higher level. So no matter where you sit on the spectrum, if you feel anxiety, depression, if you feel that you're not strong enough to quit doing something, if you feel you're not this or not that, you attract things, places, events, and people in that attraction, in that energy. If you feel healthy, strong, confident, successful, you attract people in that realm. So you and I both had a friend that quit drinking not too long ago. And after she first started quitting drinking, she said to us in the group that when someone offered her a drink, she said, "No, thank you. I'm trying to quit drinking." And right then I said, you're going to be trying and trying and trying and trying and trying and trying
Right.
forever. You need to identify with a non-drinker. So you say, no, thank you, I don't drink. That's no different than in business. If you identify with someone who's a startup, who's struggling, because that's what you've heard startups do, who is barely trying to pay their bills, who's barely trying to get, up off the ground. If that's who you identify with, that's where you'll stay. You'll attract things, people's, places, and events in that place. If you just become the person that is, I'm doing great, my business is a success, the clients are coming to me easily, I'm attracting the people I need, and then you back that up with a plan of that, then you'll do great. But when we identify with someone who's trying versus being, that's where the disconnect is.
Sure. And I love that you brought in the words anxiety and attract, because, I'm thinking, like, here's the deal, especially women, that people that go into service, whatever that service is, right? If we're female entrepreneurs, whatever your service is, like I happen to be in a service industry, I provide a service to people, but generally our thought process is that when we're of service, we don't make, so you think of a waitress, right? They get minimum wage and then tips, right? So we come from a societal view that a lot of the service industry is minimum wage plus tips. And so we come into it with that ideal that we're not going to make top dollar, like, even in school. Okay. So in school, being taught for addiction treatment counseling, so health and human services. And they say, anybody that's going into the addiction recovery industry or field is never going to get rich. We don't make money. Well, why not? We have to study like a ton. Hello. And so, but they embed that thought process in your head. So when you get out there, you're just not expecting it much. And I, wow, we're saving people's lives. I think it's worth a whole lot more than that. And so I don't come from that standpoint. I am of service for those people that find value in everything that I do, and that I have to offer, and that connect with it and are ready to walk with me. But we have to be able to describe that emotion, right? Like I feel like as a service provider, I feel less than corporate America or the CEO. I've heard people compare themselves to CEOs. I'm like, how are you not a CEO? You're a CEO of yourself, your own life. You're the one in control. This is your life. It gets to look, feel, be however you want it to. You get to choose. And so when we sit in that space of anxiety, that fear or that uncertainty of what's coming, we have to be willing to look at that and say, can I see this as a motivating factor? Because anxiety isn't a bad word. There are levels of anxiety that are very healthy. It's what level or extreme do you want to take that word to? Back to wordsmithing, guys. Open your dictionary and use it. I had somebody say, a client that was explaining her week to me, this is a few weeks back, but she was saying, I've just been busy. And then in the next time she said it was like, well, busy, I guess. I've been busy, I guess. I'm like, we gotta get to the bottom of this busy. Like what is busy? And it really was, as she was explaining to me her week in between, when I had seen her last night, it actually had only been 4 days. But she was explaining to me everything. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. How's that? Let's talk about that. And so we pulled that word busy. And instead we found that really what she was trying to say, really the way she was trying to describe her feelings and thoughts and emotions, et cetera, was that I'm engaged, I'm invested. That's what I have been doing with my daughter this whole week whenever I'm not working. So I'm engaged and invested in participating with my daughter who's, young. And so, no, it's not busy. It's not busy at all. Those are amazing words to exchange it to. And her face lit up and all of this came, it's like, holy cow, wait, so if we're using these words, it keeps us in a feeling of a need to recover still, right? Like, I'm doing all of this work and things aren't getting better. Well, look at the words you're still using. You're still telling yourself you're filled with anxiety, but really what you're filled with is thoughts of motivation, of thoughts and desires to aspire to attain something, and so by telling yourself you're anxious, you're causing pause, you're causing stall, you're causing failure to launch and being stuck because you're not writing down those objectives, the things that you need. And so that's what you attract. So when you want to know why your relationships aren't improving as much as you'd like them to, because you're doing all of this personal work on yourself, I'm in recovery now. Put the bottle down. I'm not binging. I'm able to eat in public in front of people without feeling embarrassed. I'm able to go shopping without overspending. I don't have to hide my packages from my spouse. So if we're still in the incorrect terminology, I don't even want to call it negativity, but if we're using the incorrect terminology in our lives and how we describe our emotions and how we're interpreting living, then that's what we're going to attract. So the people aren't going to see the changes in us because you're not sharing them. You're not living openly. You're keeping it all in here and you're not exuding it outwardly. So the whole purpose is to see myself experiencing living the way that I desire, receiving my environment the way that it's going to serve me, but also having my environment receive me the way that I want to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That was my sermon for the day. Oh.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that.
Right. It's just difficult, right? If we don't, if we get a text message, I hate this thing, right? Like the whole instant gratification need. Oh, I've got a message, I've got to answer it right away. Like if we read a message that says, I can't believe you did that, and it's just words typed on a screen, however we receive that is up to us. And however we respond to it or react to it is completely up to us. Like whatever story or version we give ourselves is what's going to prompt the urge to act. And so am I going to act in fear, defensiveness, or what? Or am I going to say, would you mind clarifying to me? I don't know exactly how to answer it. What are you referring to? What did I do that you are referring to so that I know how to properly respond?
It's so interesting that you say that, because when my kids were younger and I would text them, I use exclamation marks a lot. And the exclamation marks usually for me show excitement, right? In my brain. So my children would text me back and say, stop yelling at me. I'm not yelling. What do you mean yell at you? How can I yell at you over text? Right. But they would always say, stop yelling at me. And I just didn't understand that. They were taking my message from whatever they were filtering that emotion through, which was never my intention in the way I sent the text message. So there can be a huge disconnect on how we read things. And then we filter that through our own assumptions, which can be very dangerous based on, the emotion that we're feeling or that we're in at the moment. So I believe it's always, that's why I love talking with people, and having those conversations, because even emails can be interpreted. Text and just content that you put out, people can misinterpret content. For instance, this, I have a book club that I run, and the book that we're reading right now is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And I think it's a great book because it's about thinking and growing rich for the women in a community that are looking to expand their influence, to expand their revenue. And I got messages from a couple of people that they felt like that was a bad book for me to promote because they felt that Napoleon Hill was a lady killer or something. Not a lady killer, but someone who, I don't know if he went out on his wife or cheated on. I don't know any history behind that. My intention was for reading the book, the words in the book, not what the author's done with his personal life, but she was saying, how could I be a female that supports women empowerment, yet I'm promoting a man who cheated on his wife? And I was like, I don't see the connection here at all. I just didn't see the connection.
Well, because, okay, so here's the deal. And this, and I hope nobody gets like completely bent out of shape, but here's the deal. And I teach this pretty early on in my Live Free program, because society as a whole, we've all been brought up to live in a stance of a judger, right? So there are people out there that will seek, they're like, I'm not going to read this book no matter how much I can learn from it, because because of what the author stands for. And I get it. Like, you're well within your rights to operate from there. Yeah. I choose not to necessarily look at the author and to look at the content. If it's education, it's education, it's development. If it's going to fill that part of my life balance wheel and it's going to give me what I need and I can interpret it effectively in my life, that author doesn't care about my personal life. I don't care about his personal life. And I say the same thing all the time about stars, like movie stars. Like, why do they make so much money? Like, literally, it's just the profession they chose. Like, so I don't care what's going on in their personal life. And then I don't mean it to be negative, rude, but I mean, it's not that I don't care, because I care about human beings as a whole, but I'm not obsessed with following what's going on in their personal life, because their job, their profession is to make me good movies. So as long as I'm connecting with their character, it's not my business what they're doing in their personal life. It's really none of my business. So we go through life in a stance of a judger. We walk through the store and we're like, oh my God, why is that person wearing that? We drive our car down the freeway and we're like, oh my gosh, why are you going so slow? It's judge. And if you don't believe me, just observe yourself for a day, right? Instead of getting to the stance of a learner, like if I'm driving on the freeway and somebody's going super slow or is tailgating me, which is a better example because I'm usually the one being tailgated, I'm going to move over and I'm going to say, I don't know what's going on in this person's life. For all of their kid just got hit by a train and they're trying to get to the hospital. I'm not going to make assumptions. I'm just going to get out of their way because it's their life too. It gets to look, feel, be however they want it to. Sure. Most likely they stayed out late and they got up late and are trying to get somewhere on time that, they're late for, but that's none of my business. But I'm not going to let them derail me and step in judgment stance. I'm just going to get out of the way.
I raised my kids this way, and I live by the golden rule, which is do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or treat others the way you want to be treated. And that is just something that has stuck with my children. It's something that has stuck with me. So if I'm going to do something, I ask myself first, how would I feel if that was done to me? Right. So I think it's extremely important that we live by that rule to do unto others as we would have them do unto you. Because if you wouldn't want to be treated that way or talked about that way or looked at that way or yelled at that way, then don't do that to somebody else. And if more people would just love and live by that rule versus the hate and the judgment and the measuring up and the conflicts, we wouldn't be in the positions we're in today with all of the separation, all of the wars, all of the hate. It wouldn't exist. There wouldn't be a us or them. There wouldn't be a vaccinated, unvaccinated, which is the stupidest thing to me that that's even a thing, because no one's even really known. No one's even, Tricia, to tell you the honest truth, I don't know if your parents vaccinated you when you were a child. We never talked about it. I don't know if you ever were vaccinated for a tetanus shot, if you ever got hurt. I don't know. We've never talked about it. But yet today, it's a us or them type of scenario. And it's very sad to see separation in families. And so if we treat others the way we want to be treated, that wouldn't exist.
Right. And I love that you said that, because I mean, society, again, as a whole, we're judging people for their religious beliefs. We're judging people for the color of their skin, which I think is just like, how can we even be doing that at this, this stage of, I don't know, 2022? But we're still judging so many different things about other human beings. And instead of just saying, wow, like, I might change my mind. I might not, start thinking and believing the way that you do, but I'd sure like to understand at a deeper level, like what makes it cool for you, or hey, let it just be their personal business. It's none of your business. They're not doing anything, like just live a more ethical life and be good. But that's a whole different topic. But absolutely. We have to look at our emotions and be able to describe them, because if you are feeling irritated, agitated, annoyed, bothered, frustrated about something somebody else is doing, you need to ask yourself why you're looking so close. Why are you looking so close? Like, and if you feel it's directed at you, how about say, whoa, did you mean for that to be so hurtful? Or whatever your phrase needs to be, right? I'm wondering why you're directing that shade at me. Like, why are, I feel like you're attacking me. And can you help me understand? Because 9 times out of 10, and I wrote a post about this, you guys, this morning, about how we presume we know what someone else's intentions are, how they feel about something, or why they do or say something without seeking clarification. I wrote a post about it this morning. It's on my personal page and on the business page. I haven't gotten it on Instagram yet, but it's on LinkedIn, it's on Alignable, as many places as I can get it, because it's important. We presume we know and don't seek clarification. And we don't even take the time to realize why or what we're having an emotion with. Like, what is the true emotion? Why am I having it? Et cetera, et cetera. We have to get better at this. Don't just walk around saying I'm fine.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. If we want to live our lives out to the biggest possibility of what our life could be, the purpose that we're here for, the person that we're meant to be, then we have to acknowledge everything we're feeling, understand our emotions, deal with them. But that doesn't mean you need to stay marinating in them. You need to acknowledge them, move past them, and get the support of the people around you that you need to assist you when you're struggling to do it on your own, right? Get those people around you. That's why community is so important to me, because having the people around you that fuel you, that support you, that understand you, that are there to help you take that next step, one step at a time. It's no different than physical therapy. If you're learning how to walk again, or, use any of your limbs again, or motor skill development, it's no different than that than in a business, when you're running a business, right? Having those people there to support you, or getting into a new relationship, or maybe you're getting a divorce and it's the first time you've ever been single since you were a teenager, right? And you don't even know how to be single because you've been married for 35 years, or you've drank your whole life. You don't even know what it's like to be sober, right? I mean, there's so many pieces out there that we could talk about with emotions, but recognizing your own emotions. And by the way, you're only responsible for yours. When someone says, they say, you make me so mad.
No.
I can't make you mad.
No.
I can't make you do anything, by the way. I cannot make you do anything. So you are angered by you allowing yourself to be feeling anger for something. You need to start questioning why you're feeling that anger.
Well, that's in that urge to act, right? That's all the whole part of that process, right? We got to identify it, know where it's coming from. What's that urge to act? What's it sit in? What's the after effect?
Yeah.
What is that after effect? Because if I look at you and you make me so angry, and you're like, huh? And so my urge is to what? To fight back? Why? Like, why don't I inquire for deeper understanding? Because the after effect is totally different, right? The after effect is totally different. And I love that you brought that up, because I was going to say something very similar, which is, you know, we all benefit from engaging in the right support. And Colleen knows this about me. Like, I work with people in a very specific time of their life, right? And then I help them identify there's still more work to be done. Like, where are we going to find it, right? Because I've here, Colleen, this is a client of mine, and she's looking to and ta-da, and you guys have a great relationship, and it's amazing, and it's wonderful, and things are happening that aren't in my specialty. But so if you need to learn how to figure out how to identify your emotions, so you can figure out that you're in fear of failure, or fear of rejection, or failure to launch, great, I can get you there. And then maybe Colleen will take you from that failure to launch into, your business running effectively. But, there are different levels of service when you're looking to engage in people, and there's not one of us that can do it all. There's not one of us that can do it all. I happen to specialize in mental health, right? Go figure. But, so, and Colleen specializes in your mindset when it comes to business. That's completely different. And we all have different specialties that we can serve you for. But if you're looking for one of us to give you everything, then you might, I don't know, you might get disappointed, because we can't be everything. But learn how to identify what your emotions are. Learn how to identify what it is you truly need. Because if your emotion is just fear of failure and failure to launch, then you don't need somebody to teach you how to get to that realization. You need somebody that can get you out of failure to launch. So anyway, I could talk with you for hours. We do it all the time. So I think this is a great conversation, and I hope that you'll drop all your contact information and down below in the comments. And when I get on YouTube, I'll make sure it all is in there. But make sure that you share that, because I know that there are so many people that are like, I'm in recovery and I'm solid, but now what? Like, I don't know what I want to do next. Like, I don't know what I want to do. I have these skills, but I don't know what to do. Like, do I want to go back to work for somebody else? Do I want to, I don't know, but I'm definitely not a business coach, right? Like,
yeah. And then even, for those women that just want, have a corporate job and they want to be able to, consistently be around strong women. I was in corporate, and I know how hard it is to be a female in corporate America. And unless you have the support of other women, which is rare around you in corporate America, you need a community that supports you. And we do so many master classes for teaching on so many different subjects. It's not just subjects for business. These are subjects on your health, subjects on your relationships, subjects on, your estates and your wills. We have subjects on everything. So I welcome anyone in your community to look at joining a community of like-minded women that are there to support them and that they can learn from. So I'll drop that information below.
Awesome. Well, again, from the bottom of my heart, and everybody, I know I keep saying I'm going to try to get these to 35 minutes. So it's a little bit easier for you to not have to watch them in 2 segments. But having such amazing guests and great conversations. So we're here, we're at 45 minutes. So I'm going to wave goodbye and turn off the live. Colleen, I will, don't hang up just yet.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm going to turn off the live. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Okay. Thank you. That was awesome.
Is it still recording?